This is going to be an extra, and I hope some of you will get some amusement out of it. I have tried over the years not to keep up with Facebook history because I know what happened here. But when it comes across the screen and I see it and I know, oh wow, that's just totally wrong, I'm going to tell you, it just gets to me. So I don't know if you have seen this, but in the beginning, Mark said, a friend give him the business idea. Well, I wouldn't say I gave it to him, and I wouldn't exactly call him a friend. Then he said he had a eureka moment. Well, I wouldn't exactly call it a eureka moment when he got the idea. Here's another one. Mark claimed Facebook evolved from FaceMash. Now, there's some interesting history behind this one. When Mark Howitson called representing Mark Zuckerberg, and Mark asked me if I would give a statement for he could win the battle of Facebook, and I said, considering the history of what you did, I don't think so. I suggested, what's one more lie? Just make it look like one of your previous works evolved into Facebook. And that's what he did. When Mark was here, he said it felt good to get away after getting into some trouble. And his dad told him he needed to get out, learn how to support himself, and get a good education, or he'd wind up working in fast food for the rest of his life. Now later, he told the reporter that his dad offered to buy him a fast food franchise. To see how it got twisted around? Then, when he was here, when we were talking about the idea, and I was talking about all the good ways in which it could be used, and I said, if we could get people from all the corners of the world, all different sides, and they can join similar interest groups and find out that they can get along and they got some, similar interests, maybe they'll find out they're not so different, and maybe, people might be friends from around the world, and who knows, maybe world peace. Well, Mark's version on that was, he thought after the Iraq War started in 2003, it would give people a platform to speak. See the difference in how he spun it around? When I was describing to Mark the many ways in which the business plan, which later became Facebook, all the good ways in which it could be used, I said to Mark, this will be the go-to site that everybody goes to. When they get up in the morning, this is a site they go to. When they come home at night, this is a site they go to. When they need something, this will be a site where they can find it. They're not going to be surfing the internet like they did before. When this site comes online, this is going to be it. And I said to Mark, I said, as long as we keep getting people to join and posting, the income limit will never see an end. We could easily be the wealthiest people in the world very fast. Well, my pitch must have been so good that Mark decided he had to take it. And that's what he did. I mentioned to Mark being a witness to the 9/11 pre-event. And I mentioned to Mark that the problems it was causing me and how they were washing my home. Mark's opinion on that was it really didn't bother him what happened in 9/11. I said to Mark, considering what happened and what I've seen, I really have to question if there's a God. Because how could a God be so cruel to let such a horrible act happen. Mark's response was he didn't believe in a God, which is fine, but I also got the opinion that as long as he didn't believe in a God, then he didn't have anybody to answer to. Now after he said that, I said, with your name, aren't you Jewish? And he said, yes. And I thought, oh, you don't believe in a God and you're Jewish? Wow, I didn't expect that. And then I talked about, or I said something about, World War II, because, we have our relatives were in World War II, and it didn't look like he had much of a belief in what happened during World War II either. So that just kind of threw me. I just wow. When I went to school, they forced us to watch black and white films for you knew what happened. What did they teach you? Mark, you call yourself an entrepreneur, and you stand up in front of audiences and you tell people how great you are, and you give them tips on how to be an entrepreneur. Well, let me tell you something. An entrepreneur looks 10 to 15 years ahead, and they foresee the problems that are to come and the needs, and they try to find a solution. They don't come to somebody's house under false pretenses and lie and steal somebody's idea and then hide it for years and tell everybody how great they are. That's not an entrepreneur. Mark calls himself a philanthropist. From my perspective, I don't see that. From my experience, and I've said this many times before, and I know it's getting old, he misrepresented his intentions to steal a business plan. Then he asked me for help to win the battle over Facebook, the ownership. Then I was told never to reveal it, never seek a return. He deserved it all. Then after he won, he chose who he was going to help. He never came back to the person that he sold the business plan from and made it right. And I think his choices were a distraction to fool people from the truth. I think the definition of that is something quite different. He seems to have no remorse. Those actions describe the real Mark Zuckerberg. When Mark was here and he stole the business plan that I hoped was going to support me and help my paralyzed friend and others too, and then the battle for Facebook went on when he asked me for help, I've been waiting ever since then for him to come back. My health has become worse, and over the years I have watched with amusement and disappointment, and that is my experience of the real Mark Zuckerberg. Something that has always bugged me from the start of this. When Mark was here and he learned of the business plan, the idea, and he thought it was so great, one of the first people that he called was his dad. And I'm curious what he told his dad. Did he tell his dad that he met this guy that created this business plan and worked on it for many years, and he thought it would help his paralyzed friend, and he had bad health and planned to use it to support himself and others too? Or did he say, hey, I met this guy that worked on this great business plan for all these years, this billion-dollar business plan. And guess what, Dad? He gave it to me. Well, I'm kind of curious because I've never heard what he told his dad. If he told his dad the second version, and that would be like somebody saying, or it would be like somebody robbing somebody and then going home and say, hey, look at this, I found all this on the front lawn with the free sign on it. Now, the lawyer knew because the lawyer was coaching Mark. And the girlfriend would come here late at night and leave early in the morning. So I assume Mark told the girlfriend, or maybe Mark lied to the girlfriend, I don't know. And I talked to one other Harvard student on the phone about the idea, so that Harvard student also knew what the business plan was and how it was supposed to work and who it was supposed to benefit. Now, the other people that came forward and invested in it and got a return after the Facebook battle of ownership, I'm curious how many people knew the truth and never came forward and left me where I am at today. Because if that's true, then I kind of look at all of them like a partner in crime. And if that's true, I think everyone needs to look at them a little differently. I grew up in a small town in northern Iowa, went to a small school. I didn't have the opportunities that Mark had, and I didn't go to some preppy private school. But I was brought up with ethics and morals, and I learned philosophy, and from all of that comes wisdom. Now, when Mark was here and he took the idea from me, and then they called, him and the lawyer called, asking me for help to win the battle of Facebook by giving a statement, they didn't think they did anything wrong. They were pretty proud of themselves. Well, the way I was brought up, that's not right. But in their world, that must be the other way around. So I have a curiosity here. So if what you think was right, why did you tell people you had the idea given to you, you had a eureka moment? Why didn't you just tell people the truth? Well, if you're so proud of it, be proud of it and tell everybody. Well, another thing I got to say about that, and this is my last, hopefully my last video. One thing Mark never mentioned either, and I don't think he's ever really taken into consideration because I don't think I've really seen any remorse, is all the people that didn't get the benefit from this that I planned on getting a benefit from it. So imagine, Mark, you're somebody that don't have much money and you need to go someplace for your health care. Imagine you got a serious problem and you can't afford to go to an Instaclinic. You don't have that credit card. You don't have that money to afford it. Where do you go? You go to a free clinic. You don't know what that's like. Those supplies that they get, they have to come from somewhere. Now, imagine yourself being displaced for some reason. You lost your job. Hey, maybe your health went bad and you couldn't work. Maybe you lost your car. Maybe a flood wiped everything out, or a tornado, and you have no place to go. Where do you go? You depend on a homeless shelter. Not all those people are there because of drugs or a crime. It may not be their fault. I was planning on helping those people. And because of what you did, imagine all the people that were going to get the help over the years that didn't get it. Where are they now? But I'm going to tell you something about those ethics and morals and wisdom. If I would have done the actions that you did, the Shakespeare family would have been disgraced. I would have put a stain on the Shakespeare family name that would never leave. They'd be ashamed to even see me. I wouldn't be welcome. Now, your family, I'm assuming, as long as you're the big man, well, they can look past that. Those ethics and morals, they're out the door. Money means more. Well, I didn't go to that big private school. I went to a little school in a small country town. But you know what? Even though my education wasn't that great, I'm proud of the way I was brought up. I'm proud of it. Because I know better. I wouldn't do that.